Today we are going to move on to Unit 7, and we're going to do this in our journals. Oops, I went too far. Okay, so the notes and the activity is in your journal, so you need to make sure you have this. The Unit 4, Lesson 7, this is Association and Causation. And I'm going to link that to slide 17, 18, slide 18. So slide 18 and apply. And I can let it take me to 18. All right, so here we go. Association and causation. An association between two variables means that there's a relationship. You guys, excuse me. Excuse me. You've talked about association and causation before. I think in 7th or 8th grade. Okay, so we say association is a relationship or a correlation. So they're related to each other somehow. Okay? An association can be positive, there we go, or it can be negative. So that means that we can have a relation that's increasing or a relation that's decreasing. And an association does not imply causation, okay? So association and causation, we kind of want to think about like how things are related to each other and do they affect each other, okay? So we have an example here. The graph compares a person's height, so their x is their height, to their shoe size, y. This represents an association because, so these two things are related, right? A person's height, if somebody's really tall, it makes sense that their feet are bigger, right? Or if somebody's really short, it makes sense that they have smaller feet. But do they always have bigger feet because they're taller? No, you might know somebody that's really tall but has smaller feet. Or you might know somebody that's really short that has really big feet, right? So they are related to each other, but they don't cause. One thing doesn't cause the other thing to happen. So this is an association because a person's, let me stop yelling at you, person's shoe size is related to their height. It's related, but it's not necessarily caused, okay? All right, so then causation. Causation is a special type of association in which one variable directly affects another. So one affects the other. This is also known as cause and effect. So one happens because of the other. Cause and effect. Oops, I put cause and cause. Cause and effect. Changes in one variable directly. Oh, okay. I was thinking change. Okay. Changes in one variable directly cause changes in the other. Okay. So if one thing changes, then it affects the other. If it's cause and effect, you're under causation. Okay. So this graph compares the number of students in a school and the number of teachers in the school. This is an example of association and causation because the number of students is related to the number of teachers, right? These things affect one another. So the number of teachers at the school is related or based on the number of students at the school. And this is causation because if the number of students increases, then they have to increase the number of teachers, right? You can't just overload teachers with a bunch of students. So this is association because they're related to one another, and it's causation because if one of them changes, then the other one has to change. right? So if the number of teachers go down, if teachers start quitting, then they have to start sending students to other schools because they don't have enough teachers to take care of the students, okay? So let's write this out. It's association because the number of teachers is related to the number of students. That's association. And then it's causation because the number of students directly affects how many teachers the school will have. And this is causation. And I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Oops. I'm going to make my text just a little bit smaller so you guys can see it a little bit better. You can pause the video and read that, okay? Okay, so one of them affects the other, that's causation. If they're just related but they don't really affect one another, that's association. Sometimes they can be both, okay? All right, so let's work through some of these. I'm going to do a few of these with you and then let you do a few of them on your own, okay? All right, so number one, we have the amount of force exerted on a ball and the distance the ball rolls. So are these two things related? So the amount of force, so how hard are you throwing the ball? And then how far will it roll? The distance it rolls, how far is it going to roll? Well, if I push the ball really hard, it's going to roll further, right? Or if I push it really soft, it's not going to roll as far. So these things are related. One thing is related to the other. And if I change the amount of force, then it changes the distance it goes, right? So one thing is affected by the other. We have a cause and effect. So this is actually association and causation. Because, okay, how do we word this? Because they are related and the amount of force changes the distance. One has an effect on the other. All right, so now we have the outside temperature and the number of ice cream cones sold. So does the outside temperature, does it have an effect on the number of ice cream cones sold? Well, maybe. Like these might be related, right? If it's warmer outside, we might sell more ice cream cones than when it's colder outside. But so I would say there's at least association here. These are related to one another. So this is association. Because they are related. But does the temperature outside change or affect the number of ice cream cones sold? Not necessarily, because we could have a really cold day and still sell a whole lot of ice cream. So they're not necessarily directly affected. It doesn't necessarily change the number of ice cream cones sold, okay? All right, so now we have age and amount of time needed to finish a mile on foot. So age and amount of time needed to finish a mile on foot. So you're walking a mile. Will an older person need as much time as, say, you to finish walking a mile on foot? Maybe. They might need more time. They might need less time. So I think your age is related to the amount of time it takes you to walk on foot. So I think association for sure, because they're related. Your age does affect how fast or how slow you can go a mile on foot. Things are related, but do they directly affect one another? Like, as your age increases, do you automatically start walking a mile slower? Or as your age decreases, do you automatically start walking a mile faster? Not necessarily, because what if you're 2 years old? I, at 27 or 29, can walk a mile faster than my 2-year old. Um, but maybe my stepmom, who's 60, might be able to walk a mile faster than me because she's really healthy and really in shape. And, she works out all the time. So she would probably walk a mile faster than I would. And she's, 30, almost 30 years older than me, 31 years older than me. So they're not directly related. One thing doesn't change the other, but they are associated, right? So it does make sense that age and the time it takes to walk a mile are associated. All right, let's see. Let's skip down. Let's do this one, number 5. Number of school absences and grades. So are these things associated? Are they related to one another? Will your grade be better if you're in school more often? Yes. But does one necessarily cause the other? Well, especially now in this world, you have access to the internet and you don't necessarily have to show up at school to make good grades. You can do all your work from home. So does one cause the other? Does you being in school cause your grades to be good? Maybe it would help you, but it doesn't necessarily affect your grade. You could still make a good grade even if you're not in school every day. So I think these are associated because they are related. But one does not directly change the other. All right, we'll do number 6 as well, and then I'll let you guys do the rest of them. Amount of crime in a city and the number of people living in poverty there. So, I mean, what is this saying? This is saying like if the crime increases, then maybe the number of people that are living in poor communities increases as well. Well, I think again these are probably associated, um, and maybe do you think they could cause one another? I mean, could the number of people living in a poor community cause the crime to increase? Well, I mean, just because you're poor doesn't mean you're a criminal, right? So that doesn't necessarily have a direct effect on the amount of crime. You could live in a poor community and have really low crime rate. Or maybe it goes the other way. Maybe if you live in a city that has high crime, does that mean you are poor? It's a poor community. Not necessarily. Like, what if maybe you've got a criminal living in a rich neighborhood and they're just stealing from all their rich neighbors, right? So I don't think these are directly affected either. I would say this is association again. Not directly related. Let me let me choose one that's both. Oh, okay. Let's see. I'll do number 7 and number 9. Number 7 and number 9. Then I'll just leave you a couple to do on your own. A person's height and a person's weight. Are these related to one another? I mean, a person's height and a person's weight. Does your height have any effect on how much you weigh? Or does your weight have any effect on how tall you are? So if I have a person that's 150 pounds, do they have to be exactly 5 foot tall? Or can you have a person that's 150 pounds and 6 foot tall? 7 foot's really tall. 150 pounds and 6 foot tall. Are these two things related at all? I mean, I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they are about the same weight, but they're drastically different in height. So these have neither. They're not associated or caused. One doesn't cause the other. So we're going to say neither. These are not related. No correlation. We can say no correlation. Okay, and then we have amount of saturated fat eaten and cholesterol levels. What does that even mean? Okay, saturated fat is, the bad stuff, bad fatty foods that you're eating. So if you eat a lot of bad fatty foods, does your cholesterol go up? So cholesterol is dealing with your heart and things like that, right? Does your cholesterol levels go up? Yes, it does. If you don't eat a lot of fatty foods, your cholesterol goes down. So these are directly related to each other. They are directly affecting each other. So they're association and causation. So this is association and causation. These two variables are directly related. Since they're directly related, that's causation, and they are related, so that's association. All right, so I'll let you guys do the rest of them. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I will answer them. See y'all later.